if you've noticed that concentrating feels considerably harder than it used to, that you now sit down to try and get work done and you just cannot focus on what it is in front of you, you're constantly thinking of a million different things and your brain is going at a million miles an hour, you're definitely not alone, because I felt like that until about 2 years ago, when I basically figured out why that was the case. And since then, I've been implementing some very specific strategies that prevent me from ever feeling as though I really just cannot sit down and focus. And I'm going to share those strategies with you today, because especially as it's getting close to exam season, you want to be able to sit down and get your work done. And this is exactly how you're going to make sure that you're able to do that whenever you need to. So I'm going to break down 5 different strategies. If you are new here, my name's Erin. I'm a second year undergraduate at the University of Cambridge. I have my own exams coming up soon. I've done A-levels, GCSEs, all of that jazz. And these are the strategies that really do work. First of all, there is no single focus problem. There are different reasons as to why different people find it hard to sit down and focus. And generally, I think this falls into one of 4 categories. So the first stage in you actually being able to resolve your problem is to identify, okay, what is the problem that I am facing? Because the outcome of the problem is that you're finding it difficult to focus, but the finding it difficult to focus in and of itself is not the problem. Type A is when you just cannot start. You sit down and you know you've got to complete the work, but your brain is finding every single excuse possible for you to not complete the work. Essentially, you don't have the internal motivation in order to be able to overcome the inertia of actually going from having not done the work to beginning doing the work. And this is primarily a dopamine initiation issue. It often accompanies low mood, fatigue, or having tasks with very long-term and distant rewards that are hard to quantify in the present. Type B is when you can start the work, but you almost immediately drift. Within 1 to 5 minutes of beginning that work, you are no longer focused on the work in front of you. And this is actually the most common reason that people cannot focus. And it is primarily derived from having a high baseline level of stimulation, of which the culprit is generally short form social media. But there are obviously other reasons as to why this could be the case, together with a predominant habit of task switching, which is where you're trying to do what we might call multitasking, but your brain physically doesn't have the capacity to multitask. What multitasking is just you rapidly switching tasks. And then when you try and sit down for a prolonged period, your brain is not trained to do this, so it finds it very difficult. Type C is when you can focus on some things, but not on other things. And generally this will be a stimulation gradient problem. So for example, you're able to sit down and watch 6 episodes of your favorite TV show, but you can't spend 20 minutes writing an essay. So you possess the capacity to focus and to have sustained attention, but you're unable to direct it towards certain things. Your cognitive threshold for engagement is above what deliberate, effortful cognitive work can generally provide. Type D is when you used to be able to focus, but you can't. So you used to be able to sit down and study for 6 hours in a day, all fine and Gucci, and now you try and do that, and it is very, very frustratingly difficult. This is generally as a result of changed lifestyle factors, so things like sleep deprivation, over-reliance on caffeine, but there can be underlying issues that you may actually need to go speak to a doctor with if that is the case. But for the majority of people, you're going to be some combination of type B and type C. Now that you've identified what kind of focus problem you have, we can move into actually addressing that. And for pretty much all of these types, something that is very important for you to do is to lower the stimulation gradient. This is especially true if you identified yourself as being at least slightly type C. Most people will skip doing this because it involves reducing the amount of time you spend doing things that feel good. However, if you do not reduce this stimulation gradient, no other focus tip is ever going to help you, because you're going to have such a high threshold level of stimulation and engagement that is needed for you to ever be able to reach focus, that simply you're not going to be able to replicate that in a working environment when you actually have to get things done. So there is this prerequisite of you being able to train your brain to not rely so much on heavy dopamine stimulation. And I think in order to do this, there are 3 things that are very beneficial. First of all, is to reduce your morning reliance on short form content and dopamine stimulation, which comes predominantly in modern life from scrolling. Now, the reason I say do this predominantly in the morning is because if you sit here and say, I'm not going to scroll, that is just not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen. You know it's not going to happen. Why would we lie to ourselves? So we're going to say, instead of I'm not going to scroll whatsoever, say you're not going to scroll for the first hour to 2 hours in the morning. Your first couple of hours in the morning is when you have peak cognitive capacity to engage in deep work. This is because you do not face what is known as decision fatigue, which is where throughout the day you're using up cognitive resources simply by being alive and making the choices that being alive requires. If you're wasting that time scrolling, you've set your high threshold for stimulation for the rest of the day, and you've also wasted your peak cognitive capacity window, and you've made yourself tired, and you probably feel a little bit miserable for spending a couple of hours on your phone. So you're not going to do that. You're also going to try and build in some time for intentional boredom. This does not have to mean that you're sat there doing nothing, although that is a very good strategy. It could mean that you're doing something like drawing, like painting, knitting, crocheting, something analog and something that takes you off your phone, but that is not high stimulation. Again, you're trying to reform this baseline that you have. Another thing is to, and this is very crucial, to have a window before focus work where you are not engaging in passive consumption. So basically where you are not scrolling. If you're scrolling for 20 minutes right before you jump into work, your brain is going at a million miles an hour craving dopamine hits. No wonder you can't focus when you try and sit down and get your work done. And this stimulation recalibration takes about 2 weeks of consistent change. You've got 2 weeks, use them. Step 3 is to then build up your attention. And if you go to the gym, you will know that, let's say you want to be able to lift 10 kilos heavier. If you go to the gym one day and pick up a weight that is 10 kilos heavier, you're not going to be able to lift it because you've not trained for it, okay? And you need the same principle for your attention because in essence, your brain is a muscle and operates in a similar way. So what you want to be doing is finding out, okay, so how long can I focus? Crucially, how long can you focus on a single task? So you're going to choose a single task and you're going to set a timer for 10, for 15 minutes. And you're going to just do the task. If you find yourself wandering before the timer is over, that's fine. Stop. Stop once your mind has wandered and you have lost focus completely. I don't mean if you've thought about a different thing, oh no, I've given up now. No, when you've legitimately lost focus, when you realize, oh, I've been zoning out for 5 minutes, or oh, I picked up my phone by accident, now I'm scrolling. That's when you stop the session. And then for subsequent days, you're going to increase by 5 minutes, increase by 5 minutes, increase by 5 minutes, trying to do a single task and trying to end the session either before your mind has wandered or at the point of your mind wandering. But you're always trying to do more than the previous day. This will take a while, but it is building up your attention. It is sustained attentional training. Now, I'm not saying this is the only work that you should be doing that day. You can be doing this in addition to the work that you actually have to get done. But doing this is essentially resistance training for your brain and your ability to direct sustained attention and focus. Step 4 is to restore the physical foundations. Your brain is a part of your body, and I think a lot of the time we forget that. Because your prefrontal cortex, which is the area that is involved in logical processing and in decision making and is heavily involved in you deep working and trying to get things done, it requires a lot of energy. A lot of metabolic processes have to go on in your brain in order for you to be using it. And if you want those metabolic processes to be efficient and to allow you to do your best work, then you actually need to be giving your brain the physical conditions to undergo those processes in an effective way. Primarily, sleep. Sleep deprivation is the worst possible thing that you can do for memory. This is because the only time when memory consolidation really occurs is when you are sleeping. So if you're not getting enough sleep, you're just simply not consolidating what it is that you have learned, and you might as well have not been focusing on it in the first place. Also, when you're sleep deprived, you find it measurably harder to actually focus on a particular task. And the thing that I want to really highlight is just because you feel okay on 4, 5, 6 hours of sleep does not mean that your prefrontal cortex is working well on that amount of sleep. The other things that are really good for you are exercise, which produces brain-derived neurotropic factor, particularly when it is aerobic exercise. And essentially what this does is get more blood flowing around your brain, get more proteins in your brain, and this helps you sustain your attention and increase your cognitive capacity for a window of about 30 to 60 minutes after you have been exercising. So you want to be sort of getting down to focus immediately after that. You also obviously want to have limited chronic stress. Acute stress can be really good for your attention. So for example, if you're slightly stressed for an exam and you feel the urgency of a deadline, that can help you perform your best. But when you have this prolonged stress over multiple weeks, then you're going to see declines in cognitive capacity and cognitive performance. So you want to be limiting that as much as possible. I know saying I'm going to limit stress is really very difficult in practice, but it is things like making sure you're not overworking yourself or overexerting yourself. Step 5 is to redesign your environment to be more conducive to focus. The first thing that I'm sure you are aware of and I'm sure you are not doing is moving your phone out of your environment whilst you are studying. Now, by move your phone out of your environment, I don't mean you have to have it in another room. I mean it's got to be inaccessible to you. So you could set up your phone with a camera and record a time lapse of you studying. Your phone is inaccessible. You could have a little Pomodoro timer on your phone. Your phone is inaccessible. You basically just don't want it to be there distracting you with no notifications. So if you're working on your laptop or a tablet, you want to turn notifications off, simply because even just a notification popping up decreases your focus. You are out of focus for the next 23 minutes, according to some research. That is a massive tax. So you don't want to be basically building in distractions into your environment, because if those distractions are built in, it's no wonder you can't focus. The biggest tip in this front that has worked for me is having a context cue. So every time I sit down to really focus on my studies, I will make an iced coffee, and I only ever drink my iced coffee whilst I'm sitting down to study. Sometimes I'll have it caffeine free if I'm studying in the evening, for example. And then that really acts as a cue to my brain, like the bell for Pavlov's dogs, where, okay, my brain is now preconditioning itself to sit down, to focus. I know that this is what I'm going to do. I face much less internal resistance towards studying, and I'm able to just kind of sit down and get my work done. I want you to remember, though, that restoring your focus after it has been degraded is not like a 1-week job. It is going to take time, but it is time and effort that it is worth you putting in, because if you don't put it in, you're only going to continue to degrade your focus capacity. Don't allow yourself to do that. Please, please, please help yourself this exam season by implementing at least some of these strategies. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I will do my best to respond. As always, do subscribe if you enjoyed this video, give it a little thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one.